All right, guys, we're going to do one more example with section 4.3. I wanted to make sure to do an example where we started out with an odd number of data points instead of an even number, because calculating the first quartile and third quartile just end up being slightly different in that case. Okay, so here you'll notice we're going to look at some data that was collected about how far students traveled to class. This happens to be in miles. Okay, so it looks like we have here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 students that we collected data on, so we'll be able to see an example with an odd set of data points. Okay, now we're going to create a box plot. So the first thing you do when creating a box plot is to find your quartiles. The first quartile you always find is you find Q2. All right, so we're going to find Q2 first, and make sure here you order the data always from smallest to largest before you find any of your quartiles. So here we don't have it ordered, so we need to make sure we do that first. So as we're looking through this data, if you order it from smallest to largest, we have a couple of 3s, a 5, a couple of 6s, a couple of 7s, a couple, let's see, nope, just 1 10, a 13, a 20, and a 30. Again, here we're starting to see some of that right skewedness as we move into those higher numbers and some possible outliers. So that's why we would create a box plot here instead of applying the empirical rule. Now, to find Q2, always remember you're just canceling from the top and bottom, and we have an odd set of data, so we will have just one number in the middle. So I cancel 2 from the top and bottom, 3, 4, 5, and I end up with just one number in the middle. So I can see here that 7 is my second quartile. Now, what happens here when we go to find Q1 is that we will leave out Q2 from our data set when we find Q1 and Q3 if they're an odd number of data points. So as I go to find Q1, I will only take that first half of the data below the median. 3, 3, 5, 6, 6. And as I go to find Q3, I will only take the data points above the median. 7, oh, not another 7 because that would be included. Let's undo that. So it would be 7, 10, 13, 20, and 30. So if Q2 is an actual data point, then you will leave it out of finding Q1 and Q3. So now with Q1 and Q3, we happen to have 5 numbers for each here. Those sizes of Q1 and Q3 will always be the same. So here I will find again an exact point. For Q1, I will not have to average any 2 in the middle, and for Q3, I will also find an exact point. And it's just that easy once you know how to list out the numbers. Very important we list them from smallest to largest from the beginning. Now, if you remember the order that we'll go in next, once we have our quartiles, we will find IQR, or the inner quartile range, because we need IQR to calculate our fences to determine if we have any outliers. IQR is Q3 minus Q1. In this case, that is 13 minus 5, and we get an IQR of 8. We will use that to calculate our left and right fences. So I'm writing left, right. So our left fence comes next. Remember, your left fence is Q1 minus 1.5 times IQR. We go further to the left away from that 25th percentile point Q1. So in this case, Q1 is 5, and we subtract 1.5 times IQR, which is 8. That is 5 minus 12, and we get a left fence of -7. So as we go back up and look at our data points here, we want anything less than -7 to be an outlier. Now here again, we have no points less than -7. Our smallest data point is 3. We do want to see though, maybe 30 will be an outlier, or maybe even 20. So we want to see if those will be outliers. So we're going to calculate our right fence next. Our right fence needs to go further outside of our third quartile. It is Q3. I don't know why I just wrote 8. It is Q3 plus 1.5 times IQR. Q3 is 13, and we will add 1.5 times our IQR, which again in this case is 8. So that will be 13 plus 12. And we will see that our right fence is 25. So that means any data point greater than 25, we will call an outlier. So as we go back up to our data here, we'll see that 20, which is less than 25, will not be an outlier, but 30 is in fact an outlier because it is greater than that right fence. Now, once we have all those things calculated, we are ready to go for our box plot. So what we need to do now is put all that information together and remember how the box plot goes. So remember, your box plot starts with a number line that ranges from your smallest to largest data point. So we need to go from 3 to 30 here. So I'm going to start again at 0. Let's see if I can get that on there. Sorry, my dog has decided to chew on a bone. So you might hear that in the background. Things you don't think about when making these videos at home. Okay, so we're going to start with 0 on our number line. We're going to go up by probably 5s here. Let's see, my thing is just not working out right now. There we go, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. I'm going to pause this really quick to make sure my dog stops chewing on his bone. Okay, back at it. Here we go. So we need to put all these data points into our box plot. Always start with your quartiles. And again, if you want to give yourself the little tick marks here, that can be helpful sometimes. I'm going to go ahead and put those in so I can better approximate where these numbers are at on my number line. Okay. So we always start with our quartiles. Now remember here, Q1, we can start with any quartile we want. Q1 in this case was 5. So I'll have a line at 5. I'll have a line at Q2, which was 7. And now I'll have a line at Q3, which was 13. That forms my box. Okay, then I draw my whiskers to the lowest and highest data points that are not outliers. I did not have any outliers to the left, so my lowest data point in this case was 3. So at 3, I'll draw a slightly shorter line and connect that whisker to the box. Then my highest data point, not an outlier, in this case is 20. 30 is an outlier, so we don't connect it. So that's a good thing to note up here. From this 25, we did note that from this, then that 30 is an outlier. And you remember what we do with outliers? We make outliers just data points, just little points. Okay, so there's our outlier right there. And this finishes off our box plot. Okay, so we've got a box plot there, and we've done another example of one.